Great. So the recording has just started. Again, thank you all for joining us on the third webinar for National Latino AIDS Awareness Day. National Latino AIDS Awareness Day, again, takes place every October 15th. So we're a little under 2 months away from the actual date. So again, these series of webinars have been designed based on the feedback that we've gotten from you all, our partners, and we went ahead and designed that content and customize it based on what you mentioned would be a need to better assist you with organizing your National Latino AIDS Awareness Day events. So again, today's topic is mobilizing communities, engaging partners, and soliciting sponsors. With that said, some general housekeeping rules. The lines are all currently muted, and we do this every time just to make sure that we eliminate some of the background noise. Sometimes when the lines are unmuted, it makes it very difficult for everyone to hear. So if you ever want to talk during the course of the webinar, in case you want to pose a question or make a comment, you can do so by unmuting your line, and you can do that by pressing *7, and your line will be unmuted. There'll be portions of the webinar where we'll unmute the line just so we can have a general discussion or people can answer questions. But if you want to do so, you can also answer comments or answer questions or pose a question by entering the information in the chat box, which you'll find in the web portion in front on your screen. And again, don't forget at the end of the webinar to fill out that evaluation form. That evaluation form, again, really helps us inform the way we design each webinar and make sure the information that we're presenting is useful for you. And if there's anything that we should change about it, we can go ahead and do that for the subsequent ones that are due to come. So again, today's webinar is on mobilizing communities, and what we're planning on covering is, again, as we usually do, have a general introduction and welcome, so we know who's on the call with us. We'll give some general in-that updates, and then we'll get into the meat of the topic, which is what is community mobilization, how to engage partners/community members, and the last portion being 6-step approach to sponsorships. So with that said, again, my name is Tony Ochoa. I'm the Program Manager for National Latino AIDS Awareness Day here at the Latino Commission on AIDS. So what we're going to do now, this is the part where I'm going to unmute the lines. So again, what we're going to ask you all to do is, just so we know who's on the call with us, give us your name, your agency, and your city and state. So I'm unmuting the lines now.
The conference has been unmuted.
So again, give us your name, your city and state, and your organization. So again, my name is Tony Ochoa. I'm with the Latino Commission on AIDS here in New York City.
Michael Keogh, CARES Outreach, Sarasota, Florida.
AIDS Arms, Dallas, Texas.
Wonderful.
Janine Jones, Akron, Ohio.
Hey, Janine.
Otero, York City Health Bureau.
I'm sorry, Summit County Public Health.
Benjamin Dakota, Latino Salute, Wilson Manors, Florida.
Hey, Benjamin.
Emily Eckert, Access Matters, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Hey, Emily.
Benny Castrejón, 16th Street Community Health Center, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Hey, welcome, Benny.
Annie Earl, Hickory, North Carolina, Alpha.
Hey, Annie.
Megan Basie, Duke Partners in Caring in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Hey, Megan.
Crystal Mobley, Florida Department of Health in Broward County.
Jean Hernandez, AIDS, Alabama, in Birmingham.
Hey, Jean, how are you?
Good.
We also have Richard Torres and Ana Gonzalez from Puerto Rico. Thank you for joining us, guys.
This is Heather States from Florida Department of Health, Jackson County.
Hey, Heather.
Hey.
We also have Elia with Genesis Community Health. The chat box. Okay, we have about 25 odd people on the call right now. So again, thank you all for joining us. As you can tell, we have a good section of people from across different places in the country, including some of our territories like Puerto Rico. So thank you guys for joining us on this call today. We're very excited to be about 2 months away from National Latino AIDS Awareness Day. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to place the lines again on mute. If at any point you want to make a comment or pose a question, again, you can unmute your line by pressing *7, or you can enter your question or comment in the chat box. So we have Andrea with the Florida Department of Health in Broward County. Hey, Andrea. So I'm going to get started with announcements now. So I'm going to go back to muting the lines just to make sure that we makes it easier for people to hear.
The conference has been muted.
So general announcements. We're starting to engage partners in the street intercept survey process. Again, the street intercept surveys are a critical part of the campaign in that they really help us design every year's implementation design of the campaign itself. So it really collects very informative content and data around how the general community is responding to the campaign. Last year we had a series of several partners in different cities that conducted street intercept surveys, and by doing that we collect information that's very useful as far as how that particular city is aware of National Latino AIDS Awareness Day, where they heard about National Latino AIDS Awareness Day, and also what they did in response to the campaign. So this information not only is useful for us and us as partners in the NLAD network in designing the campaign, but it's also very informative for you all in those cities that conduct street intercept surveys, because it lets you understand what's going on with the Latino community and how they're engaging in the campaign, and also some general engagement behaviors, right? So like, did they talk about HIV with family? Did they increase condom use? Things that are really beneficial for you all as partners to understand what the Latino community is doing in response to the campaign and your efforts locally. So again, what's entailed in the street intercept survey process is that we would send you all the materials that you would need to conduct the street intercept surveys. So that would include the printed surveys. So what we ask you all to do, if you want to be involved in this process and make sure that your city's represented in the report, is that you collect at least 50 surveys before October 15th and 50 surveys after. And the reason we do it that way is because you want to do a comparison between general awareness prior to the campaign and general awareness after. Hopefully we see some level of increase. And again, that information is very useful for you all, again, in making sure that you design effective campaigns or effective events that are representative locally but also nationally, and kind of see how it's doing as far as your efforts in raising awareness among Latinos through National Latino AIDS Awareness Day. So we would send you the surveys printed. We would also send you incentives. And these incentives are specifically sent out to partners that are doing street intercept surveys. So the survey itself is about 10 questions long, very short. Generally doesn't take someone more than five minutes to complete. It's designed in a way where it's culturally competent and tries to be as least intrusive as possible, while still capturing the information that's needed to make sure that we understand what's going on with the Latino community locally, and also the response to the campaign itself. And so we'll send you the surveys and incentives, a return envelope, so you yourself wouldn't be incurring any cost as far as printing the survey or incentivizing people to complete the survey, but we're asking partners to at least do 50 before and 50 after National Latino AIDS Awareness Day. So if that's something that you're interested in doing, please email me. Again, my email is tochoa@latinoaids.org. My contact information will also be on the last slide, but you should also have it if you receive the email invitation to this webinar. So make sure to respond to me if this is something that you want to be involved with, just because it really does provide informative data to what's going on with Latinos locally in your region. Secondly, our congressional briefing, which takes place every year. Unfortunately, last year due to the government shutdown, we weren't able to have it, so we were lapsed in us holding the congressional briefing. But we're, again, making sure that we hold it this year. And this year, the congressional briefing is on September 9th, on Tuesday from 11 to 12. And it's on the impact of HIV/AIDS and viral hepatitis among Hispanics in the U.S. South and Puerto Rico. So this is in commemoration of National Latino AIDS Awareness Day, in recognition of National Latino AIDS Awareness Day. So we have a series of partners that are very involved in collaborating with us to make sure that we have a successful congressional briefing. And again, the congressional briefing is intended to to kind of develop our advocacy, but also inform our elected officials about what's going on with Latinos and HIV and Latinos and hepatitis, to make sure that they at least are informed when it comes to any policy making or any advocacy work that they're needed, and also to kind of build a rapport with them. As you can tell, the elected officials are from both parties, Republicans and Democrats, and we intentionally do this because we understand that Latino health isn't a party-affiliated issue. It's something that everyone should be concerned with, right? So again, this is going to be taking place on September 9th from 11 to 12. What we're planning on doing, and we're hoping this is possible, is we're hoping to live web stream the congressional briefing. So we'll be sending out a link, if we can do this, to everyone so that people can view the congressional briefing live as it's happening online. So we're still solidifying the details as far as making sure that we have Wi-Fi access and we can make sure that this happens. So once we have that confirmed, we'll make sure to send you the details so that you all can view it as it's happening. So that's very exciting. So before I move on into the meat of the discussion, does anyone have any questions as far as what's going on with MNAT this year? One thing I do want to announce that isn't included in here, I've gotten several calls about the website not functioning yet, and guess what? I'm not surprised. The website is something that we've been dealing with year in, year out. And we're constantly trying to make it as user-friendly as possible, but again, every time we change it, people aren't used to the changes that we're making. So our subcontractor is working diligently on making sure the website is up and functional as soon as possible. Once it's up and running, you'll be able to register as a partner, make sure that you can enter your event information so it's on the website in case media wants to contact you, and you can also then order content, the content being the poster, but you can also download resources like the fact sheets or resource kit to help you better organize your event. What I'm planning on doing, if the website isn't up and running by early next week, I'm going to ask people to start contacting me directly, and I'll send you some of the information that you'll need. And again, on the website, you should be able to order things like posters, and we're still in conversations to make sure that we can solidify the testing kits for any partners that are looking to do testing locally, so that we can provide those to you in case you're doing testing at your event. So are there any questions that anyone has? I'm going to go ahead and unmute the lines right now.
The conference has been unmuted.
Does anyone have any questions about MNAD so far, or what's going on, or anything that you'd like to comment on? The lines are currently unmuted, so anyone can hear you now. No?
No questions over here.
Great. Not a bad thing. Lets me know that I guess I'm being pretty precise about it. If you want to ask a question at any point, or think you want to ask a question that's more personalized to you locally, don't hesitate to give me a call or shoot me an email. I'd recommend sending me an email. It's easier for me to respond just because around this time it's more difficult for me to be typed at my desk, so it's easier for me to respond to emails than it is to get me on the call or on the phone. But I'll try to respond to any calls or emails as soon as I'm able to, all right?
The conference has been muted.
So we're going to get started with the meat of today's topic, which is mobilizing communities, engaging partners, and soliciting sponsors. So we're going to start with this thing called community mobilization, right? And community mobilization is, I think, particularly beneficial amongst Latino Hispanic communities, just because culturally Latinos tend to be very community-driven, very collectivistic in culture, being that they, we oftentimes hear that, Latinos are very rooted in family, or that, we oftentimes think about Latinos as thinking about family before themselves, not necessarily individually driven, but making sure that the people around us, our community is doing as well and progressing. So community mobilization is particularly beneficial amongst Hispanic Latino communities. And what we've done here at the Commission is that our Vice President, Miriam Vega, came up with this principle, which she called the LUCA principle. And LUCA is an acronym that stands for Unique Community Mobilization Model that takes into account the need of support to build leadership, unite communities, enhance knowledge, and take action. So it's a model in which we use here at the Commission to develop community partnerships and also engage local community members in efforts that we have across the country. So anytime we do anything locally, we always follow this model to make sure that we're doing this effectively in a way in which it's really engaging local partnerships, developing leadership, uniting communities, enhancing that community's knowledge, but on top of that, also finding a way in which we can develop action that's specifically tailored to that community in a way that resonates with local issues. But not only is LUCA an acronym, but LUCA is also Miriam's, our vice president's son. His name is LUCA. So that's kind of where she got the inspiration for the acronym. LUCA is from her son's name, and that's a picture of LUCA right there. So we're going to start talking about each one individually. I'm not sure why that P's on the bottom there. Must have been an issue that came up with the uploading of the slide. But the first letter in the acronym, LUCA, stands for leadership. And leadership is particularly important just because rather than ever trying as an organization affiliate or a group affiliate to try to come into community and delegate what to do, leadership is a key part to community mobilization because we want to make sure that we enhance leaders within that community's knowledge and ability to engage with us and the cause that we're trying to deliver in a way that's effective, right? So we're not only identifying leaders, but we're also developing leadership skills for stakeholders that we might be able to identify within the communities that we're working with. So what I'm going to ask you now then is think about in your region, in your community, in your area, who would Latinos consider a leader in your area, in your region, in your locality? And you can think about, I'm just going to pose the question generally. So I want you guys to think about who do you consider a leader in the Latino community in your area? Or who's a leader within the Latino community in your area? So what you can do now is you can enter in that text box who you think is a leader within the Latino community. And it could be nationally, it could be locally, but who do you generally think are leaders within the Latino community? Hopefully we'll get some people to start typing those in. So type those responses into the chat box. Someone said a person who is trusted in the community. Definitely. Someone that's trusted is an essential key characteristic of leaders in the community. A person, Latino Salud is the only Latino-focused HIV provider. So I'm guessing Latino Salud, you mean the organization. So it's a leader in that it's the only Latino-focused HIV provider. Great. Someone said Jorge Gardela from Price Center in Fort Lauderdale. Someone else said state store owners, teachers, definitely. When we're talking about communities, and I'm glad that someone mentioned this, when we're talking about local communities, oftentimes leaders are people that are business owners that are there, that they constantly interact with the community, right? So we start then thinking about leaders as also stakeholders or gatekeepers. And gatekeepers, again, are people that have access to the community that we might not necessarily have directly. So if we gain the support of stakeholders or gatekeepers, they kind of give us an introduction and a way to interact with the Latino community that we might not necessarily be able to do ourselves. So another person said La Comunidad Hispana in Philadelphia. Someone said Luisa Fernanda. So I'm glad we're giving very precise general figures in the community, but also organizations, right? Role models and people within the community that serve particular roles. And there's also other people that oftentimes Latinos look up to, right? So think about faith-based organizations, right? Priests sometimes play critical roles as far as leadership goes when engaging with Latinos, right? So think about who do Latinos generally interact with and have some sort of level of respect or some level of camaraderie with, or might even have access to the Latino community that might be difficult for us to engage with directly if we're not directly tied within that community ourselves, right? And the important thing about doing this is that once we've identified those leaders or key stakeholders in that community, we can start engaging them in conversations and letting them know, hey, you're part of this Latino community, the Latino community looks up to you. How can we collaborate in a way that we can both benefit and we can develop your leadership skill set so that we can ultimately have a greater good and impact amongst the Latino community. So what we eventually see happening is that when we're engaging leaders in the community, at first it's very didactic in the way we interact with them. We're letting them know this is what's going on with the Latino community. This is why we think we should collaborate. This is what you need to know about what's going on. But after a while, you'll see in the slide that on the after side, we ourselves become a member and contributing information within that dialogue that we have with leaders in the community. So we take a step back, we sit down at the table, and we're peers of the leaders we identified, right? So we engage with leaders in a different way once we've identified them, and we provide them with information and engage them in a way where they see benefits to collaborating with us. And by doing that, we're fostering unity. And again, unity is a key component to developing partners, but also engaging community members. So when we're thinking about the LUCA principle, we're not only thinking about how we can collaborate with organizations or form coalitions, but we can also think about it as a way to engage community members themselves, right? So this works in two ways. We can think about this as forming a coalition of different organizations, or engaging the local community directly ourselves by engaging leaders or engaging leader organizations or leader agencies or leader businesses, right? So ultimately, unity is the harmony or agreement between people or groups to address common goals to empower their communities. And again, a key part of forming unity is to make sure that everyone sees a mutual benefit to engaging in this collaborative effort. So that's going to take quite a bit of effort. You got to think about who you're engaging. How can you speak to them or frame your message in a way that they're going to see a benefit to working with you as a community member, or as an organization, or as a business? You got to find some way to speak to them so they can see a mutual benefit to being involved with you and your inlet efforts, and making sure that we find some way of mobilizing our community as a whole, right? And one thing to mention is that when we're doing this and we're identifying leaders, leaders don't always have to be members of the community itself, right? So leaders can be people that have a connection to the Latino community but might not be Latinos themselves. That's not uncommon. And again, I introduced the idea of having, sometimes we have priests who, again, play key roles in the Latino community, but some of them aren't Latinos, right? But yet they're so respected and kind of looked up to and admired, and really have a key say in a way in which the Latino community, generally functions. And again, that's just an example that we generally think about. So when we're engaging someone like from a faith-based organization, we might want to take a step back and not necessarily talk about, condom usage, right, as a way to prevent HIV and AIDS, but maybe talk about general health at first, and then say integrate HIV and AIDS within that. So you start seeing how your message is going to be framed in a way where that particular organization or that particular entity or that person sees an invested interest in being part of your efforts, right? So by doing that, you're building the knowledge of the person you're working with, or you're building the knowledge or skill set of the people that you're engaging with based on what's going on. But on top of doing that, you're also assessing what's going on with the community itself. So you're finding out what are some of the behaviors that the Latino community is engaging in locally, or what are some things that are going on with the Latino community that might let us know what's going on within that community. And there's ways in which we can do this, and there's plenty of ways in which we can do this, right? We can do spot interviews, we can look up data, we can look up reports about Latinos in that particular area. So there's different ways in which we can find out, or try to find out what's going on with the Latino community that might better suit us or better make us ready to engage Latinos, right? And ultimately, the whole reason why we want to do all this is so that we can develop some sort of action plan or some sort of action thereafter once we've engaged leaders, once we've formed some sort of unified common goal, once we've built our knowledge skill set as a collaborative effort. Once we have those three pieces tacked down, we can then start thinking about, well, what can we do? What's within our ability to make these changes, right? So again, this principle is amazing in that it helps us understand how we can mobilize community members themselves, but it can also serve as a way to mobilize coalitions or engage local partners, business owners, different types of people that might have a stake in the Latino community. So with this model, I know that it's very quick and it's very gritty in terms of the way I kind of addressed it, but I purposely I purposely wanted to give you guys a general framework as to how you can go about forming coalitions, forming partnerships, just because I know this was a question that was posed and mentioned both by our Leadership Council and also the general NLAD network as far as a topic they wanted it addressed. So hopefully this kind of helped you think about how you can mobilize communities and also engage partners locally. And again, this is a model that we ourselves use in and out within all our programs and all our efforts across the country when it comes to engaging in events, planning events, or engaging or building local leadership or mobilizing community throughout the country. So I really encourage you guys to think about this model as a way to go about engaging Latinos or forming coalitions or groups or partnerships. I purposely had this be general, but if you feel like you want a more customized support with this, you'll see at the end of the webinar, we offer something called capacity building, so we can go about supporting you in a more detailed, customized way to utilize this model. So again, this is something that we could do for you individually as an organization or a group or coalition as a way to reach Latinos, but not only Latinos, the model itself can pretty much be adapted or used with any population. So I encourage you guys to think about it critically and also see how you might be able to use it and adapt it for what's going on locally. The second portion is us talking about how to solicit sponsors. And this came about because a lot of organizations were talking about, okay, yeah, we've engaged local partners. There's a good number of us that are involved with hosting another event, but we want to do more. We want to go about taking an extra step further and try to allocate resources through corporate sponsorships or by sponsorships through local businesses, right? So it doesn't always have to be a corporate sponsor. It could be a sponsor that we're trying to solicit from a local business that has an invested interest or Latinos engage with regularly, right? So you'll see that in these 6 steps that I'm going to give you as far as how to solicit corporate or sponsorships, some of them overlap with the LUCA principles that we mentioned a minute ago. So the first step in developing or engaging in corporate sponsors is us defining who our target population is for our events, right? Or what you're planning to do for National Latino Awareness Day. Most people think, okay, yeah, it's easy, my target population are Latinos. But we want to take that a step further. Beyond just being Latinos, I mean, Latinos could be young, they could be MSM, or men who have sex with men, they could be gay, they could be straight, they could be couples, they could be people that go to church, they could be a bunch of different, they could be immigrants, they could be second generation, they could be, you know, the older population. So the more segmented you are with your event, the more it's going to speak to that particular population. And it also helps you then, once you've segmented and really found a niche population that you're addressing your event for, it also then helps you think about, well, based on the population that I'm trying to create an event for, what businesses or corporations engage with that particular population often, right? So if you start thinking about things like, you know, well, I want to hold an event for people with, I'm collaborating with an organization, with a church, so I'm going to go about engaging people for an event that are people that are faith, right? People that go to church, that go to mass. And by doing that, you're going to develop partnerships and potential sponsorships or collaborations with churches and things like this. Or if you're thinking about hosting an event with older populations, you can then potentially have an event with or businesses that engage that population frequently. So think about who you're really focusing your event on to help you then identify who you want to reach out to as far as sponsorships. Because they themselves, if you have the same common consumer or the same people that you're trying to reach, they're initially right off the back going to say, okay, we're both trying to reach the same people. There's going to be a benefit to both of us. So how can we make sure that we're mutually benefiting from this, right? Another useful thing to do in step 2 is consider doing what we call set up sponsorship levels. Sponsorship levels are beneficial and that it really helps sponsors identify what they could do or what they're going to get depending on what they're going to donate. And mind you, when we're talking about sponsors, it doesn't always mean that they have to give money, right? It could be things like they're going to provide food for your event. That could be a sponsorship, but that you can collaborate with the restaurant and say, hey, if you by donating food for this many people, we're going to name you, a gold sponsor like you see here. And by being a gold sponsor, we're going to give you We're going to make sure that your logo is branded, or we mentioned you on our marketing material. So again, they're going to see a benefit because not only are they putting their restaurant out there, but they're also helping a cause, right? So think about how you can then mold an event or sponsorship levels based on what they can offer you. And again, it doesn't always have to be monetary. It could be donating a shirt, right? If you're thinking about engaging a local T-shirt manufacturer, saying, "Hey, if you donate these shirts, we'll make sure." And a lot of T-shirt printing companies do this. We'll put your logo on our shirt for our events, right? And they'll be more than happy to either take some of the cost off the order, or be involved in more ways than that. So think about, again, once you've identified who the potential sponsor could be because you have a mutual consumer, think about what you could give them in return that they're going to see a benefit for. The third thing would be, once you identify them and kind of develop this, is reach out to them directly. Oftentimes we think that, an email is going to work. What I'd recommend is reaching out to sponsors or potential sponsors directly, just because it helps you better build that relationship and rapport with them. So even if you're able to go there and it's a small local business, go there and meet the owner and say, "Hey, I'm with this organization, or I'm with this group that's looking to host this event. We both, it's the same type of clientele that you have. I think it'd be a great benefit for you to collaborate with us because A, B, and C." So doing that could really be beneficial for you because they have a face rather than an email or just text, or they have a voice that's attached to the communication, right? And I want you to be mindful of the fact that it's going to look very different depending on the size of the business or corporation you're engaging. If it's a larger corporation you're engaging, usually they have internal staff or members of that organization that are specifically, their only role is to do social responsibility or social or corporate giving, right? So usually those require more time to build, but it's not impossible to make those happen. What I would recommend, I think I see most organizations benefit from, is when they engage with local businesses more, just because it doesn't require as much time to process that. Just because when you try to target large corporations, they usually take lengthy amount of time just because there's so much red tape. So usually the best benefit or the best way about engaging sponsors is by thinking about who's around you locally, right? And another thing you want to do is, once you've engaged them in conversation, send them follow-up letters. And the letters themselves is a good way for them to see what exactly you're looking to do, who you're representing, and how they would benefit this. So on top of what you mentioned during that meeting you had with them, or during that phone call, you could also have the follow-up letter just so they can see it with you. And finally, what you want to also do is make sure that you follow up. I mean, you don't want to be hounding them every other day, but make sure that after you've given them some time to think about it, that you follow up with them. Don't just go about doing a mass meeting with a bunch of different organizations or a bunch of businesses. Make sure you follow up with each one individually, just so they can feel like there's some sort of customized approach and their value in being involved with your particular in-that event. And lastly, and I can't stress this one enough, you got to make sure you sustain and cultivate those relationships. Once your event happened and it's been a great success and they've been invested in being part of this event with you, or donated time, or donated money, donated volunteers, donated tables if you're looking to engage a party planning business, sustain that. Send them follow-up thank you cards. Make sure that you, throughout the year, say, "Hey, because of your corporate responsibility, your corporate support, or your business support, we were able to reach so many people." Make sure you can sustain that relationship, because again, usually they'll donate a certain amount in the beginning, but if you do a really great job of cultivating and sustaining that relationship, it's more likely that they'll want to come back again next year and be involved with you again, and potentially even donate even more than they did the previous year before that. So again, sustain those relationships. So those are the key 6 things that I would recommend based on experiences that we've had with partners across the country as far as developing sponsors for your National Latino AIDS Awareness Day event. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to unmute the line. I know a lot of you already might have sponsors involved or partners. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmute the line. I want you guys to jump in.
The conference has
and
been unmuted.
who you've engaged with locally as far as businesses go for your National Latino AIDS Awareness Day event, if any. So if anyone wants to share a particular partnership or a particular sponsor, feel free to do so right now.
Text, please give me a call. Appreciate it.
Anyone? So one that I can think of, we're in communications with having a collaborative effort with UFC fighters. They're making a major push as far as raising awareness around HIV and around the Latino community. So that's one partnership that we're working with. And again, another partnership that we have is our partnership amongst our network, right? We're all partners with each other. And ultimately, if we're within the same region or area, we want to try to engage one another in conversation to make sure that we make the most of our resources. So does anyone want to share their, we're all pretty shy today. I'm guessing it's Friday, so that's why we're more quiet than usual. Anyone? No?
This is Javier in New Mexico. For our upcoming INLAD, we've gotten a lot of partnerships through the university and different nonprofits. So, for example, I work for the state, and so I can't, there's a lot of things that I can't do. For example, buying food.
Right.
Sponsor our INLAD event and purchase food or contribute entertainment in ways that I cannot. So that's through the university, some of the student groups, and then a couple of the nonprofits that our partners have created sponsorships. Also, just with our sponsorship letter, the Department of Health isn't allowed to do that, but the university and some of their groups have done that for us.
That's great. I'm glad you mentioned that, Javier, because a lot of government agencies have the same problem. Most of them do, right? So it's really critical because of that partnership and those partnerships are built, because other community-based organizations or other entities don't necessarily have their hands tied or restricted as far as what they can do as government agencies do sometimes. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Sure.
So someone said Javier said for first time, the Santa Barbara Network Clinic. I think that's it, right, Javier? Well, we partner with two other local agencies, Pacific Pride Foundation and Casa de la Raza in Santa Barbara. And again, I can't stress enough how it's great to hear that partners are collaborating with each other more and more. Because again, once partners start collaborating with one another, it really does make a greater voice locally, but it also makes for larger events, which is a great benefit for the Latino community at large. And also, it's not as resource heavy when it comes to hosting these events. So that's great. And he also said also a local Democratic Service Club would like to participate with us, having a table to register Latinos to vote. And that's a wonderful thing. And then that's a great way to think about non-traditional partners and thinking outside the box, is that thinking about how another organization like that has a general interest in the Latino community, that sees a benefit to being involved with your event. So getting Latinos registered to vote, that's a great one, right?
Thank you. I'm going to have to get some of those.
I want to get some of those too.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. That's great. So again, I thank you all for sharing those ideas with us. I think it really gets our ideas jogging as far as
from St. Louis.
We can potentially solicit as far as partners or also sponsors, right?
Hello?
Yes?
Hi. Well, this is the first time we're going to do something with NLAD here in, sponsoring events for the Latino community here in St. Louis. And we've gotten a great response from Casa de Salud, which is the local clinic here, sponsored by St. Louis University. I've gotten the buy-in from a lot of the community members on Cherokee Street, which happens to be the Latino and art district of St. Louis. So I'm getting food donated by three different restaurants, and I've gotten a venue sponsored by one of the local property managers in that area as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like you're already doing some of this already, right? Like identifying partners that have a vested interest in the same people you're trying to reach too, right?
Yes, I'm pretty much like the Latino liaison here in St. Louis with the Department of Health. So I've had my own little relationships already built up, and now that we're actually hosting an event, we've gotten a great response. Then getting a speaker in from Chicago, Dr. Jaime Martinez, is going to come in and speak.
Wonderful.
So
that sounds amazing.
Yeah, we're hoping for a big event.
Together. That's great. That's great. And again, it sounds like you're really thinking about this outside the box and making sure that you're engaging as many people as possible. And I think that's going to come out to be a great event, especially for a first time around. That sounds like you guys are going to have an awesome event there in St. Louis.
Yeah, that's just for the National Latino AIDS, like the AIDS Awareness Day for the 15th. Actually, the 12th, Sunday before that, we're partnered up with a couple other organizations, and we're part of this health fair, Santa Cecilia, local church here, and I invited some of the food trucks to provide like healthier options to Mexican food.
Oh, great.
We're providing HIV testing and promoting our events also for that upcoming Wednesday.
That's awesome. And again, the reason why that's great, I'm glad you're doing this, because again, the reason why we selected October 15th is because it's the last day of Hispanic Heritage Month. So we wanted to jump in on that and make sure that we tie in National Latino AIDS Awareness Day within a lot of events that are happening already, just so that we can collaborate and make sure these events are great. So it sounds like you're already doing that there in St. Louis, and I'm excited to hear what comes about it. Please take a lot of pictures. I want to see what that looks like. It sounds like it's going to be great.
Definitely will.
So with that said, does anyone have any questions about anything we've talked about today?
What about media, like flyers or posters? How do we get those?
So what I'm gonna do, they're generally available for download on the website, but again, the website's still under construction. We're expecting that to be up and running as possible. I keep hounding them about it, but it doesn't seem like it's coming any sooner than I wanted to. But there are posters that you can download, but we also generally print them and send them to you directly.
Okay, so there's some that we could download and we could add our own logos on them?
You can.
Okay.
You can. So what I'll do, if the website isn't up and functional within the next week, is you can contact me directly and I'll send you the file of the poster so you can do any type of revisions or additions to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments? Javier, definitely hit me up for posters. Again, I'm gonna give our subcontractor a couple more days to make sure they try to address some of the glitches that are happening with the website before they launch the new version for this year's theme. But if it doesn't happen, I'm just gonna email you guys and have you guys contact me directly to give you those posters or start placing some of those orders. And again, we can mail you posters, or you could also just download them and make revisions to them yourselves.
Está falle el sprint de toda la mañana.
This is awesome.
So again, I'm going to mute the lines again. Well, actually, we're almost done. I'm just going to leave it open. I kind of want to hear people's conversations. Elliot just mentioned my mic is working, but okay, she's wondering how we formed a partnership with UFC. So actually, UFC reached out to us, and at first they wanted to just form one event, a press conference. What we did is we pretty much did a very similar way in which we followed the NLAD model. So we worked with them and said, hey, this is what's going on with Latinos and HIV. This is why I think you should really be invested. Once we collaborated once, we sustained those relationships, and we developed those partnerships even more. Even after the event, we thanked them. It was a great benefit for us as an organization, and also for Latinos nationally as far as raising awareness. But it also then developed their general interest in wanting to continue to collaborate with us more. So by doing that and building that relationship, it was continuing to be a mutual benefit for both of us. So again, we pretty much did exactly what I just presented, is that we followed up with them and said, hey, thanks for coming through. I'm glad we were able to find some mutual ground. It sounds like you guys were very invested in making sure that we address HIV amongst the Latino community, and now they're wanting to collaborate with us even more in different events throughout the country. So that's kind of how that came about. And again, the more collaborations you make locally as far as coalition building and partnering with other organizations locally, it really does resonate as far as a larger voice. So you'll get elected officials' attention more, or you get larger corporations' attention when you have a collaboration of different organizations involved in National Latino Awareness Day. So yeah, I think you're mentioning there's in South Florida there's a lot of training facilities there that you would love to work with, and I think that's great ideas. Again, once you really hone in on who you're targeting for your event, you can then start thinking about, well, who also interacts with that community, right? So if you're trying to reach out to Latino gay men as a way to host an event for, you can start thinking about, well, who's a key leader in the Latino gay community locally? What businesses really target Latino gay members of the community? So really start thinking about who are potential partners in your efforts that also have a cross-section of the population you're trying to reach out to. Wonderful, guys. So again, like I mentioned throughout the course of the webinar, usually webinars are intended, we put them out there as forming general frameworks or ideas, but we can also work with you directly and provide you more customized support about how to utilize these locally. So we do this free of charge, so it's not like we're funded to do this, we're funded to work with you guys and make sure that we support you in any way we can by providing you technical assistance if you're a community-based organization. So that doesn't matter whether you're funded directly by the health department or not, or whether you have private funding, but if you're a community-based organization, we can work with you and utilize some of the models we talked about today around making sure that you're testing and doing high-impact testing or prevention of positives, or organizational management, or program design, or things like this that you're executing locally if you're a community-based organization that works around HIV and AIDS. So again, that support we have in-house for you. And that could be through long-distance learning, or if it's a larger group and it's more extensive, we could even potentially come to you and provide face-to-face technical assistance. So if any of this resonates with you, if you're looking to be involved with street intercept surveys, which I really encourage you to do, or if you're looking for capacity building assistance or any of the other support that we have here, or anything that I might have mentioned that sparked your interest, feel free to contact me by email. Again, that's generally the best way to reach me, just because I'm in and out of the office so much lately that it's sometimes hard to call me on my desk because I might not be there. But my email again is tocho@latinoaid.org. Or if you want to try to call me, you can do so by calling me at 212-675-3288, extension 337. If you come up with a question that you didn't answer or ask during the webinar, you can do so. You can hit me up over email, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Right? So with that said, we got through this webinar pretty quickly. I didn't want to take too much time from your Friday, just because I know we might be anxious to get our weekend started. So with that said, thank you all for joining us today, and we'll be in touch. Look out for emails that I send out as far as updates go with the website or anything related to NLAD. Right. Thank you guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.